Hello, I'm Jane Constantinis and welcome to our discussion about inventories, contracts and deposits and how you as the landlord can protect yourself and not get stung. I'm joined today by Eddie Hooker from Total Landlord Insurance and Nick Lyons of No Letting Go. Welcome to both of you.
Hi.
Let's begin at the beginning. What are the official procedures, if you like, that can help a landlord and a tenant avoid a dispute at the end of the relationship?
All starts with the tenancy agreement, and the tenancy agreement is a document that sets out your expectations of the tenant and sets out the tenant's obligations throughout the term of that tenancy. So for example, if you don't want the tenant to smoke or you don't want pets, that's where you lay out what the tenant can and can't do in your property.
And you get the tenant to agree to that at the outset.
Get them to go through it with them. Don't just print something off the internet, hand them the document. Take some time, sit through the clauses with the tenant so that they fully understand what they're in for.
Absolutely. It's so important. I mean, it's not the sort of thing, as Eddie rightly pointed out, don't just grab something off the internet. There are some great organisations, landlord associations, agents, lawyers, specialist lawyers. It is everything, any dispute, anything that happens throughout the tenancy will come back to this tenancy agreement. So you have to ensure that
Disputes start at the beginning.
Disputes start at the beginning, not at the end.
And what are the possible areas for dispute? What might go wrong?
Cleaning's the biggest area. So the tenant is part of his deposit is perhaps retained by the landlord to clean the property, but the tenant actually may say, well, the property wasn't in that state at the beginning, and that's where things like inventories and check-in and check-out reports come in. But cleaning and gardens seems to be overgrown gardens is another common one.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly in terms of the, I mean, obviously the tenancy agreement protects you in terms of the other critical elements of things like arrears and that sort of thing, of course, and how do you get a tenant in and out of your property. But when it comes to looking after your asset as a landlord, then of course, exactly as Eddie says, it's about the condition and making sure that it comes back to you. What you do, you're essentially lending, in its broadest terms, lending your house to somebody else, and you want it back in good condition.
And what is an inventory? Is it literally a list of what's in the property?
Well, actually, it's we use the word inventory, but actually it's more of a condition report. The condition report gives you a much better explanation. The inventory and schedule of condition, to give it its full name, is a list of everything in the property. It's the gardens, it's the colours of the walls, it's the type of materials that are used, it's everything. I mean, it really is quite a detailed document.
And I think you've done some research recently, Eddie. Is it 65% of people do their own?
Yes.
Is that wise, or should you get a professional involved?
We would always recommend, wherever possible, that you use an external inventory provider. As Nick said, it's so detailed. If you get it wrong, then actually it could actually be worse than not having that inventory at all. But there's nothing to stop you doing it. The most important thing is whatever that inventory looks like, go through it with the tenant, get the tenant to agree to it, sign it, and take some photos along with it as supporting evidence to it.
That's right. The written word is the most important element. Your tenant signing it, yes, you support it with photographs and make sure that if they're not embedded into the document, that they're signed separately and this sort of thing. But it is so critical, and to ensure that you get things like the condition, the keys and the meters and all of these things that are picked up, so that everyone agrees right at the beginning that this is what I'm moving into.
Yeah. And final word on deposits, the other thing that it's very important to get sorted out at the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah. Deposits are commonplace in the letting industry. They're taken by the landlord for the tenant failing to carry out their obligations, missed rent, missed bills, damage, cleaning, that sort of thing. Typically anywhere between 1 and 2 months, no more generally than 2 months, I would suggest. And make sure you protect that deposit, because there's a whole raft of legislation now about protecting your deposit with a company like mydeposits.co.uk. And coming back finally to the inventory side of it, deposit schemes love inventories, check-in and check-outs when there is a dispute, because they are evidence-based dispute resolution.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, the deposit schemes are there to protect the tenants' money, because at the end of the day, in the good old days prior to 2007, when the deposit schemes came in, you used to hand your money over to the landlord, stick it in the bank, and then maybe at the end you might get it back or you might not, you know, depending on the landlord. Yeah. But now, of course, the position is it's got to go into a deposit scheme. If you take a deposit, it legally has to go into one of the deposits, or be protected in some form. Absolutely,
Excellent. Really good advice. Thank you very much. Sorry, we're out of time. That's it for now. Thanks to Eddie and Nick for joining us. And if you want to find out more about Total Landlord Insurance, go to totallandlordinsurance.co.uk, and also check out the Total Landlord Facebook page. If you like the page, you might even win a year's subscription to Property Investor News. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.